Everyone thinks Don Sebastian of Portugal died at the Battle of Alcácer Quibir in 1578. The problem is, thousands of people claim to see him alive decades after. I've studied enough conflict zones to know the difference between a confirmed death and a body that simply wasn't found. And in the summer of 1578, King Sebastian of Portugal, 24 years old, unmarried, with no direct heir, rode into battle in Morocco with an army of roughly 15,000 men. What came back was chaos. The Battle of Alcácer Quibir was a slaughter. Portuguese forces were decimated by the Moroccan cavalry. Official records claim the young king drowned in the Lucos River during the rout, swept away in the current. But here's what bothers me about that account. No body was ever produced. No eyewitness placed him in the water. The Moroccan Sultan, Almanzor, who had every incentive to parade the Portuguese king's corpse through his capital as a trophy, never did. Instead, he claimed Sebastian had been taken prisoner, then quietly released him. At least, that's what the official narrative demands we believe happened next. The Portuguese court was thrown into a succession crisis. Sebastian had no children. His great-uncle, Cardinal Henry, was elderly and celibate. Within months, the throne passed to Philip Roman II of Spain. Portugal suddenly was absorbed into the Spanish crown. The loss wasn't just military or dynastic, it was cultural. A nation had effectively ceased to exist as an independent power. And yet, something strange began happening almost immediately. Reports started trickling in from across Europe. A man matching Sebastian's description was spotted in Venice, then in Mantua, then in Rome. A Portuguese priest swore he'd seen the king alive in a monastery in the Azores, begging for shelter under an assumed name. A Moroccan merchant claimed Sebastian had been held captive in Fez for years, kept alive by the Sultan as leverage against Portugal. Each account was vague. Each one was impossible to verify. And yet, they kept coming. I've read the logbooks myself, the correspondence between Portuguese nobles, the letters to Spanish authorities demanding investigation. They took these reports seriously. Too seriously, in fact. In 1584, a man appeared in Venice claiming to be Don Sebastian. He had the right age, the right bearing, knowledge of court life that seemed authentic. Portuguese officials were sent to verify him. They concluded he was genuine. Philip Roman II government, naturally, had him arrested and imprisoned. A king who didn't exist was a threat to the Spanish succession. But that's where the official story starts to crack, because this wasn't the only impostor. Over the next 50 years, at least 5 different men claimed to be Sebastian. Some gained significant followings. In 1595, another claimant emerged in Naples and was backed by the French court against Spain. In 1598, a third was captured and executed. Each one had enough knowledge, enough credibility, to convince at least some portion of the Portuguese nobility that he might be authentic. Why would so many men risk their lives making this claim? Here's what the historians won't tell you plainly. The battle records from Alcácer Quibir are incomplete. The Portuguese survivors were traumatized, scattered, many killed in the retreat. No comprehensive death roll was ever compiled. The Moroccan accounts are equally murky. Almanzor's court records don't clearly state what happened to Sebastian after the battle. We have assumptions. We have official narratives constructed decades later. We don't have certainty. The most credible theory, and I say credible because it's supported by contemporary documents, is this. Sebastian survived Alcácer Quibir, probably wounded, probably separated from his army in the chaos. He was captured by Moroccan forces. Almanzor kept him alive, imprisoned, because a living Portuguese king was more valuable than a dead one. Ransom negotiations, leverage against Spain, insurance against future Portuguese invasion. A captive king served multiple purposes. Here's where it gets darker. By the time anyone in Europe knew to negotiate seriously for his release, years had passed. Sebastian was no longer the young, politically valuable commodity he'd been. He was a liability. He'd been imprisoned so long that releasing him would invite questions. Confirming his survival would destabilize Spanish rule over Portugal. So, Almanzor likely did what pragmatic rulers do. He made the problem disappear. Not publicly. Quietly. In a cell in Fez or Tangier. The last independent king of Portugal died in obscurity. The impostors that followed. Some were delusional, some were opportunists. But some, the ones with genuine knowledge of court protocol, of Sebastian's personal habits, of secrets only he would know, those men might have been something else. Survivors of his captivity. Men who'd been imprisoned with him, who'd escaped, who carried fragments of the truth. Or they were his agents, spreading his story, hoping someone would believe, hoping someone would act. What we know for certain: Don Sebastian of Portugal disappeared in 1578. What we suspect: he was captured, imprisoned, and died in captivity somewhere in North Africa. What we can't prove: exactly when, exactly where, or whether anyone else ever knew the truth. The Spanish crown benefited enormously from his absence. Portugal remained under Spanish control for 60 years. By the time Portuguese independence was restored in 1640, everyone who might have known what happened to Sebastian was dead. That's the real mystery here. Not what happened to Sebastian, we can make an educated guess. The real mystery is why so many people in the decades that followed claimed to have seen him alive. Was it genuine hope, political ambition, or did they actually know something? Did someone somewhere keep the truth locked away, waiting for the right moment to reveal it? We'll never know. Some secrets, once buried deep enough, stay buried forever. Subscribe. There's a new unsolved royal scandal every week, and the next one might hit even closer to home. Subscribe. There's a new unsolved royal scandal every week, and the next one might hit even closer to home.